Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Wednesdays. My name is Justin Ancheta, and I'm here to talk about amps in Ableton Live. If you guys don't already know, we do this every Wednesday. It's a free live streaming from SF Garnish to all of our different locations at Garnish Network worldwide. Thank you to the Garnish Network for bringing us out to all locations. And once again, I'm going to go through some amp modulation in Ableton Live. Here we are in session view today, and really part of amps, people think of guitars and how to make sounds with specifically guitars, which we will do today, but also we're going to get creative and put these amp modulations over MIDI instruments, simpler and other devices that really can create some tonal landscapes for you that can really change your mix-up quite a bit. All right. So here we are in Ableton, and just a brief layout of what I have here. This is kind of a template that I have for a lot of my songs, which just to clean it up, I have an all group, and then I have my effects all right here that things are routed through so I can do some of my live DJing effects on all these tracks. When I open this up, I have a group of my rhythm. I have a couple samplers right after that. That I can sample over to. I have my vocals, which also I sample into my sampler here sometimes. And then I have my drums I can expand out or close up my group. Some more sampling. And then this operator, this is kind of like a sweep, a general sweep that I have. Sometimes I have it where it sweeps a 4 count up or a 3 count, so it hits on the snare. Those are ways that we can kind of do breakouts, either live looping or with a DJ set. And then if we have backing tracks, it would be in this category right here. And if you guys have any questions, please comment and I will monitor it through our restream. And yeah, happy to take questions from you when we can. So let's get into this. This is kind of cleaned up. You can kind of see if I expand out this area, this is kind of how the backing tracks are. And I've done some work with this in previous days of just some basic guitar, drums, bass, beatboxing loops. And today, like I said, we're going to get into doing some of the rhythm over here. All right. So let's get into this. I have some guitar tracks. I'll just start off with doing amp modulation on guitars, but then we'll get into other instruments as well. So let's start off with a clean guitar. Notice how I have my returns here, A through F. A, B, and C are my reverbs. I'll just start off totally clean. And then D, E, and F are my delays. These are different time delays going from short to long that are just general reverbs and time delays that I generally like in my mix. My, let's say C is a long reverb, 3.5 millisecond reverb that is panned right. So that's something that just I like to have on there. On most all mixes as a quick, easy way to mix and not have to add any extra plug-in or something. Okay, I'm going to get my guitar on and we're going to get going with some sounds. All right. So what we have here is kind of a Les Paul guitar sound. This is going direct in. I'm not going through my Mesa Boogie amp at the current moment. And that's because I just want to really show how much versatility there is with the amps inside the box, inside what comes with the Ableton Live 11 suite. So let's just start off on 0 on all these. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. And let's turn this all on. All right, so this is all already mapped to the channel that my the guitar is coming through. If you aren't mapped to the appropriate channel, let me bring you back over here so you guys can see this. If you guys aren't mapped to the appropriate channel, you guys can drop this down. Notice how I have a lot of external ins because I have the X32 rack. You may just have 1 or 2 or 4 to 8 inputs, but just make sure that you just make a little sound with your guitar or your input, and there it is on 29, and that's how it's routed there. I am in the mode, I'm going to expand this out so you guys can see this. I'm in auto mode so that we can hear all the effects that we drop in to our effects chain. Okay, when you're in off mode, it won't actually play the sound for you, right? It's grayed out. This is if you were just listening to your amp live and you weren't listening to Ableton sounds. Okay, so we do want Ableton sounds. Something else to note here, just so we don't have too much lag, is my buffer size is down to 128 samples. And that's so that I can, live stream and play guitar without all of my effects making a crazy delay. So just want to give you a heads up, if you go to like 124 sample rate, it's going to change your latency issues. So I'm at 128. Okay, coming to the upper left-hand corner up here, I'm going to expand that out and go into, I'll just take this vocal effects rack, and I'm going to give you an example of how to change it into a guitar rack. Okay, so we have all of our effects of EQ8, our chorus, our compression. And so when I play the guitar, you can kind of see that it is engaging the threshold. So that's actually fine. If it wasn't engaging, I would drop this down right here. And then let's go ahead and look at the EQ of this. You can kind of generally see where the guitar sounds are coming through. You can even take this EQ off to see if that changes it. Not too much, right? So sometimes when I'm doing something like this and I just kind of want to test the EQ and the sounds, I can actually do a quick loop, and I'll do that so that we can be kind of more hands-off here. So let's try this out. I have the click playing in Q out 3 over here. I'm going to change this to 1, 2 so you guys can also hear it. And that's pretty loud for y'all. All right, so bringing that down in tempo. All right, let's try this out. So you can kind of see where the tones are coming through, kind of in this lower register. Now you're noticing that I'm shaping some of the guitar tone just to the EQ. This is something that our amp is going to also do. Now we're also in record mode right here in the upper area right here. So all of those movements are actually mapped. If you ever want to unmap those, you can just go ahead and delete the automation on whatever's there. We're still in map mode. Okay, so on my push 2, I pressed unrecord, so it's not recording. I can now turn off my metronome. You can click up here with your mouse, but I was also using the shortcut of the push 2. It really makes the workflow nice and easy. So right away, this is kind of the general tone we're working with. So it's kind of nice is to notice where the guitar is kind of standing out. Between 500 and 1,000 hertz And sometimes that's the range of the melody or the guitar, and the vocal pops up around 1100 to 4000 hertz up here. So it's nice to have a little boost in the area of where that instrument kind of stands out, just to make sure that that's the tone. Now, when we have an amp, let's go ahead and just type in amp up here and go to all effects. You can kind of see where the racks are, amp simulation. And here are some presets. Okay. I generally just click on, let's see if this works right here. Audio effects rack, amps. All right. That is just empty. This is actually new in Ableton 11. So you got to click on one of the presets here, and notice how the presets actually come with a couple time, it's like a timestamp, right? It's like knowing these are all different tones, right? That are preset here. And you can actually change it and then click here to take that snapshot again, right? So this is where the amp modulation comes in. And essentially what we're doing with the EQ, the amps are doing something similar where the treble, middle, and bass is taking specific EQ and boosting it in those areas or minimizing it in those areas. As you can see, this is all kind of boosted, right? These are 5 dB, 7 dB right here. So kind of some crazy tones right there with that basic heavy. If you want to customize this more yourself, you can open this up and slide over and kind of generally see, you know, what's happening over here. So this master rack is changing, right? These are already mapped over here to these different areas. Now we can also do is change between the amp modulation right here. What's kind of nice is that all of these different presets are already here. And you also have these extra changing between amps. It's as if you were plugging in and out of different amps, you would essentially say. All right, so this is where the guitar is kind of that gritty tone of as if you were going through either a solid state or a tube amp. I personally like tube amps myself, but they're super heavy. So really you gotta pick your battles in life. So here's the guitar. Everything is dry, and I'd probably put on a little bit of reverb. So 1.2 millisecond reverb, a 2.5, and then the 3.5 right here. I'm going to turn this up so we can hear a little better. My master out. Don't want to blast you guys out too much. Interesting. My OBS is saying that that's peaking in my feed. If you guys think it is, let me know. But I don't think it is. Notice that right over here, my volume is super low, so I don't know how it could be peaking on my feed. Probably just actually picking up on all that distortion. So there's a clean channel. And what you could do is just really take on and off. Right, to really kind of get that vibe of, is it really the feel that you want? Now you can boost in those mids. Now we have also our delays right here. So I'm going to get more into the delays next Wednesday, because we're working on amp modulation mostly today, but it's kind of fun to put a little bit of delay, tap tempo on. All right. So there we have it. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that and go into my arrangement view. And notice how I have some markers here. All right, so I have a couple different takes that I did from session view, recording in first take, second take, and then I had my main take over here that I kind of brought over to the front of the mix. This is just kind of a specific workflow that I did for this track. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that all the vocals are muted for now, which they are right here. And we'll just put a nice big loop on. Command L to loop the area that I selected. All right, so there's the track. Make sure you're in the right key. So we're on that track of the guitar, and once you have your tone down with the amp modulation that you want, and some of the effects on your sends in return, then we can just do a little track of that. So I'll just go from the very beginning. I'm going to turn the click back on and have it to where you guys can hear it as well. So whenever the beat drops out, I can kind of keep that time still pretty solid. So, all right, we're in G minor. So we don't have to do a full take right now. But there's some parts in there that I can then kind of paste around. I have some dynamics where I played soft in the beginning and then a little bit louder. So we can kind of take those pieces. Bringing that back in the mix a little bit. So there you have it with guitar, right? Just amps within the box, right, of Ableton 11 Suite. Now, since I have this chain and a general idea of where the EQ and everything wants to be, and this is called Vocal Effects Rack, I'm going to go ahead and click the Save button right here and click this as Guitar Rack. And I'll just do 01 here. So now we have that guitar rack that we can bring back in, and I also put that in my custom racks pack up here, right, my collections, so I can easily get to it. All right, so there you have guitar with, and that's kind of like what you presume will happen with an amp modulation. Now we're going to go into putting this amp modulation over a unique instrument. So let's go ahead and just make a new track here. Command Shift T. And I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right key of G minor. Excuse me. And we're going to go in and let's get an instrument. What do we want? Maybe something with lead. Synth lead. All right. This is really live, you guys. Really want to find the right sound for this. Percussive. I do like those sounds. Vintage. We'll find it here. We'll find it here soon. Not quite the sounds I want. Still searching, still searching. All right. Let's try a little bit of this. All right, I'm gonna put my guitar down and let's listen into the track. Control Z that. Let's make sure that we're in the right record channel here. So I'm unrecording out of guitar. Now, this is an instrument that doesn't have anything on it just yet. And we're going to go back into my effects and find the rack in my racks of guitar. So we have that amp modulation. I'm going to add it right into that chain here, the digitalized. So right away, it has more of that grit, okay? So this is just really the sound we initially had, right? Let's go ahead and A-B that. That's the original sound. And now with the guitar amp. Right, so it just has a little bit more grit to it. Changing the threshold a little bit. Now, something that I really like on drums is this drum bus. I'm just kind of curious what will happen if I put a drum bus on this specific rack chain. Let's go ahead and just put it at the very end here. So that can really bring out some of those lows. And if you don't want those lows, and really change up which tones you actually want in your mix. Yep. So drum bus can be something that can really bring out some cool things. Honestly, it's a drum bus and it's for really getting those tones on your toms and on your kick specifically, or even snare. Let's go back to where we were here. All right, let's go ahead and play along with that. All right, and this is not supposed to happen during my session. I'm going to go ahead and quit that program that's ringing us. We don't need calls right now. All right, so we have a little bit of that tone there, and this is something that I would kind of copy and paste over or do a whole take of, bring it back in the mix, right, once we have it down. And I was also using the pitch shift on the push too to affect the tone of it just a little bit. So yeah, the amp modulation on an instrument, okay? And then once you have an instrument you like, you can always then save this whole digitals, right, with the amp modulation as your own. Personally, I'm not too keen on this specific rack, so I want to kind of keep my collection really clean here, things that I'm really jazzed about, so I can find them really quick and easy when I'm ready to. I'm noticing there's a couple hits on my guitar that I feel could be maybe more precise. I'm just going to see how the quantization feels on that. Quantize to the 16th note. Do some auto panning as well. Put an auto panner on the digitals. very end of the chain. Let me go ahead and put that inside the rack. There we go. Interesting. So when I put it inside the rack, it actually didn't have the effect work out because of how it was routed. But when I put it on the end, you can kind of see that now the panning is going left and right. Taking off that metronome. All right. So I was also thinking too that what I want to do here is in the next little while get some arpeggiation going on with an instrument. I'm not sure what instrument just yet, but we're going to go ahead and do that same search again with inside our instruments. Let's see here. Operator, let's pad. Go ahead and get that bell going on. Okay, so we have this instrument. We're going to go ahead and record enable just that exact channel. Make sure that our scale is set to G minor. Changing up the bottom here of the instrument and how it's sounding. So I kind of wanted more of the bell sound. And let's go into some type of arpeggiation. I believe I have a mono sequencer that might do the trick here. All right. And maybe what I'll do is put that in after and see what happens. All right, so I was playing that on the push 2, and let's see if this mono sequencer can fill in there now. There we go. Okay, now we have it working. So this is going to be changing the pitch. All right. So you really have to kind of know where you want to go with this sequencer, right? and which key you're in, how much off from the tone that you're playing. So because I was jumping around quite a bit, it's gonna essentially, I should probably, let's go ahead and just move this over for now. I'll zero that out. And I'm gonna make this be my sequence. I'm gonna loop this and just play one long MIDI note in the key that I want. Here's a G note. All right. So now this is doing just 16th notes all the way through. And what you can kind of start doing now is start adjusting. So these are all 16th notes here. So you can really change how many steps you want, right? How many notes you want. Notice how it's going measure 1 and then going all the way through and then back down again, right? That's something that we're purposely putting in there. Back to our 16. All right. All right, so we're able to actually do some arpeggiation on this one chimed note in the key of G minor, and we're kind of making sure that we know our notes here, and then also these are the octaves. So, really changing up quite a bit there. All right, so we got our bells working there. Now it's really a soft tone, and what we want to try and get here is a little bit more of that crunch. The same thing we're going to do is go into our effects rack. We have our guitar here. We're going to place it at the end of this chain. Drastically affects that one, right? So really we want to make sure this might be a little bit too harsh specifically for this guitar. Noticing we're getting a little bit of artifacts because our CPU usage is quite high, even with the 32 RAM that I have here. But I think going live on OBS and Restream is cutting that down quite a bit. But as you can see, you can start affecting that tone of that kind of soft instrument and just getting a little bit more of that grit as if you put it through an amp, which is essentially how you're routing that. All right. Yeah, we're getting up there pretty high in our CPU usage. One of the downsides of using one computer for all of my streaming here and my OBS and kind of pushing the limits of it here with this mono sequencer, the chimes, and then into the amp modulation all in one chain. Now what we want to do here is, if this was its own instrument, right? We want to treat it that way. Select all. There we go. Let's make sure we have all of this selected. So we have JA rack, including. Okay, let's try this out. This may be a crasher right here, but we'll go Command G. Boom. All right, we have it right here. So just like that, this little small line is now my entire rack. Okay, instrument rack it's called. And this, I'm going to call this mono sequence amp JA01. Okay. And I'm going to put this into my custom racks. It's essentially an instrument as well. Okay. So maybe I'll put in our instrument channel as well. Now, all of these macros can be customized to affect any portion of these internals of the instrument rack. Okay. I'm not sure if this is something that I'll use in the future because it has to have that specific note listed, but you know, there's potential of it. So let's just try this out here for a second, try and make this, oh, here we go. We're gonna send this to a new sample channel. Let's just make a new sample channel right next to it so it's nice and easy for it to be read. We're gonna engage that channel. And we're going to take the audio from, so this is going to be sending to our sample channel. Dun, dun, dun. Audio to sample channel. Do we have multiple sample channels? That is a good question. Naming stuff correctly, yeah. So that should do it right there. And then now this is going to go to rhythm all. And this is going to come from the 5 mono sequencer. Audio from 5 mono sequence. There we go. Right on top. So now, just so you guys know, this is taking the audio from this and it's going to sample it down here. Okay, so we're just going to have a waveform that we're creating from this. If this is going to glitch, I may do this offline after we stop today. Another way to do it would be to freeze other tracks and then sample this down and then get rid of this, or yeah, freeze it to where it's not taking up your CPU usage. So let's try this out. We're barely making it through this. We'll get through this. Great. All right, so what we essentially did here is we didn't really have to record this channel, honestly, because it's just recording this sample channel. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this channel now because it's taking up CPU usage. And we have this track here. It's not recorded very heavily, which I think I probably want to do more of that. Okay. All right. And it looks like that may have actually done. My computer's kind of catching up right now, y'all. So essentially we resampled this over. I should actually call this, instead of sample, I could call this resample. Right? And let's just go ahead and bring this to the master to see if that will do the trick. Not sure how that happened, but one of my filters got engaged, which is why that was happening. It wasn't actually my CPU. So there it is. So notice some of the artifacts. It could be because of my CPU. It could be because of the amp that I put on there. Now this is where I start customizing more of the EQ of that instrument, right? And it's also where we can come in and really shape the location, right, of where we want this in the mix. I'm going to go ahead and loop that section and put an EQ on, EQ8, just general. Now see all this extra stuff on the bottom that we're dealing with here? This is kind of going to muddle our mix. So what I'm going to do is take a sharp filter, right, and just get the frequencies that I want in the mix, which is the twinkle on the top. And I'm going to make the 8 a little sharp as well. All right, so what we have here is just so that twinkle is on top, bringing that back in the mix. And it's all in tempo because of the mono sequencing. It puts it into the 16th note tempo. If you guys don't know how we created this resample, just go ahead and you can always look over previous videos on our YouTube page. Please subscribe and like our pages. We're going live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook right now. Follow us. And this is every Wednesday for West Coast Wednesdays. Like and subscribe. We're going through digital audio workstations, mostly Ableton, because that's what I love. But we also have guests doing Logic and so on and so forth. Today, we're looking at amps on different instruments. We got into a little bit of mono sequencing and getting that kind of that bouncing around effect, and then putting the amp and creating a rack with that amp and everything that we did, and then saving that into our collection so that we can bring that back up and stay really creative. If you're always down here in your categories, it can kind of, take a lot of time to find that right instrument. You even saw that in the middle of our session when I was looking for an instrument, and I kind of got really expansive, didn't have a plan, and we had to go through quite a bit of instruments. Whereas if I go right here, I do have a chunk of instruments that I really like, and I've put direct links to them. So just a little idea to keep things flowing so you can stay creative is work on your categories. You can put your amp modulation on any instrument. I have a Native American flute here. I often put it on my voice to get some more grit for certain parts of the song. I'm going to go ahead and just play out this song, turn the vocals on. We weren't listening to the vocals originally, so we may kind of take in or out the guitar, but that's kind of part of the play of creating these landscapes, these soundscapes. So let's go from the beginning. And if you really like what you see here, or if you're just joining us, thanks for following. My name is Justin with SF Garnish Music Production and Soul Graffiti Studios. I'm live every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. talking about mixing and mastering, sound design, Ableton tricks, VSTs. I just got the $49 Isotope deal, which I believe is still out there right now. You can get like $1,400 worth of their product. It's a wave bundle, I think, for $49 right now. And great deal. Definitely check that out. And then I'll be going through some of those VSTs in the near future as well. All right, going out with this little playing of the track while I do some mixing as well. That vocal sounds like it has some of the amp modulation on it. Let's look at that. Just really bassy. This is all I have. I'm trying to get through. This is all I have. Please accept me. This is all I have. Putting utility on here. structure up in that one pause.
This is all I have. Please accept me. This is all I have. I'm trying to get through. This is all I have. Please accept me. All I have.
You can hear the filtering automations that are going on.
This is all I have. Please accept me.
Cleaning up this track a
This is
little
all
bit.
I have. I am trying to get through. This is all I have. Please accept me here. This is all I have. I am trying to get through. This is all I have. Please accept me here. This is all I have. I'm trying to get through.
This is just kind of a long loop here. I'd probably take out some of this time.
Please accept me here.
So right here, that whole area, I can go Command Shift Delete, and it will delete that time. So it takes out some of that extra time that I don't want.
I'm trying
All right.
to get through.
Almost done here, you guys. 12 o'clock. We're here every Wednesday, 11 to 12 Pacific Standard Time. Thanks to the Garnish Network for having us out again.
Trying to get
Every Wednesday, West Coast Wednesdays from California out to wherever you're at. If you have any questions, please ask away. We'd be happy to answer them. And we went through amp modulation today on different instruments. We got into a little bit of mono sequencing and then customizing racks and saving your work in your collections. We'll bring that back down so you guys can hear me talk on the way out. And yeah, stay in touch with us. Go to garnish.edu and check out one of the locations. We have online and in-person classes year-round at all locations. The benefits of being a part of our Producer Academy program is that you can sign up at one location and take classes at other locations for free, sitting in on classes, retaking classes, and having access to all of our studios on off hours worldwide. I don't know how many other production programs have the ability to, you can go to Tokyo and sit in on our studio there, or in the Bay Area, we have Soul Graffiti Studios, Nashville, Tennessee, etc. Cool. We're using fade to gray here and some filters, which is what you're hearing in the background. We'll be going through delays and reverb again, a little bit more in depth next class, and I did use it a little bit today on my A through F send and returns, but happy to walk you more through that in the future. You can always go to our YouTube page, and there's a playlist of all of our West Coast Wednesdays. We're here every Wednesday of 2021. We'll see how long we can do this. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm gonna fade out here with the music and go on out with our logo. Be well, stay safe, and so glad to be doing in-person lessons again. So please come out to our studios and take some in-person lessons. We're super stoked. We have a boot camp going on right now in Oakland, and we'll see you really soon. Take care.